everyone. Welcome to Imperva's The Great CASB, which is a spin on The Great Gatsby, if you're wondering why we are all in costume, some more than others. We appreciate that. So I will start and I'll just let everyone introduce themselves. Our focus today will be to talk about so we're in the cloud track session, and our focus today will be around security and how will you move into the cloud with your SaaS applications, what types of security, governance, and compliance type of requirements are needed. And as you move into it, I'm sure you've already noticed a lot of vulnerabilities and gaps that start opening up. So we're here to really help you understand how you can still move into SaaS applications without having to shut down features like OneDrive or being able to access those from BYOD, and what the technology out there that exists that can help assist you with that. And so the format today is more of a Jeopardy session. It's a game show. I will be your Alex Trebek, and we have 3 contestants here. So I will let each person just introduce themselves, and Tim, we'll start on your side.
Tim Garza, Resource Agency IT Director.
Rob Schmidt, Chief of Office of Technology Services at California Department of Technology.
Jason, Chief Technology Officer of California Highway Patrol.
All right, so we'll get started. And at the end, we will have an audience category too, and I've got some lovely helpers over here who will pass the mic around, and we've got some cool prizes for whoever gets the answers right. So today's categories are Pain in the SaaS, The Great CASB, Lurking in the Shadows, Compliance and All That Jazz, Embrace the Cloud, and our audience category will be Hollywood Hacking. All right, so we are ready to start with Rob.
The Great CASB for $200 because it sounds like Gatsby.
It does. The acronym CASB stands for this.
What is Cloud Access Security Broker?
Correct. Good job, Rob.
Thank you. So that's a coined term by Gartner for providing security and other management controls as organizations and companies move to the cloud.
He sounds like Wolfman Jack.
I thought I was trying out for a job.
Tim, your turn.
The Great CASB for 500.
All right. Visibility, compliance, data security, and threat protection.
What are the 4 key functional areas outlined by Gartner that any CASB solution, such as Skyfence, should provide?
Correct.
Good job.
Tim, would you like to talk about how these are important to you, or why?
I think it's very important that when you look at a hybrid cloud or cloud solutions, that you have the ability to have transparency and visibility into what your clients are doing. You need to be able to ensure that the right level of security is placed with the right type of cloud provider, and that you're looking at threat protection a little differently than you do when you look at it as an on-prem threat. So it's very important that you have these 4 functions.
That was a great answer, Tim.
All right, Jay, your turn.
All right. Pain in the SaaS for 200, please.
Okay. True or false? The following critical capabilities are provided natively in Office 365. Controlling, bring your own device access, distinguishing between managed and unmanaged devices, preventing threats such as account takeovers, controlling file sharing, and protection against leakage.
False. There are security, compliance, and access control that are only found in a solution in the CASB market, such as Skyfence. Right?
Right.
Okay.
Basically, when you implement Office 365, there will be some native vulnerabilities that technologies such as the CASB market can provide. Good job, Jay. All right. Rob, your turn.
Excellent. Yeah, I'm on the roll with this particular topic, so we're going to go with the great CASB for $100.
All right. True or false? All SaaS applications procured through cloud are 100% secure, and individual agencies will not have to worry about making sure SaaS applications meet various requirements around PII, HIPAA, FTI, CGIS, etc.
Wow. What is false? If it were true, I'd go back to being a CIO because I wouldn't have any risk, right? And that's a misnomer. So people think that when you move to an environment that it's 100% secure. But understand, as a CIO, you have responsibility. It's a joint responsibility working with the data center or other providers to ensure that your application and data is secure to the level that it needs to be. It's all about managing your risk.
Great answer, Rob. All right, Mr. Garza.
Lurking in the shadows for 100.
A term often used to describe IT systems and solutions built and used inside organizations without explicit organizational approval.
What is success? No, wait a minute.
Success.
Strike that. What is known as shadow IT?
Correct. You don't have a problem with this at all, right?
No, I think that actually shadow IT can be a valuable asset if done the right way, and it's done visibly. And in fact, with the implementation of a lot of SaaS type of cloud solutions, it's really going to belong closer to the business and not in your centralized shop. And your consumers of that will be your programmers. So in essence, you are embracing shadow IT, whether you realize it or not.
Good answer.
Yeah.
Basically, it's there whether you like it or not. So just do something about it, right? Jay, your turn.
Compliance and all that jazz for $400, please.
All right. The review of sanctioned cloud apps to evaluate security and compliance gaps, such as scanning shared files and data stored in file sharing services to see which contain sensitive and regulated data, comparing security settings against industry best practices or compliance standards, and reviewing user entitlements.
What is governance?
Good job. Governance, something we all have to worry about.
So I actually have something to share on that. Is, there's a lot of activity going on at OTEC right now with governance, and I would say IT governance as a whole in the state. So I really think this is an important area for all of us to consider, is how do we manage IT for the state? How should we share ideas such as standards or compliance? How do we deal with all that? So I think it's important us to work together, not just within departments, but as a community at large. And I think that involves the vendor community too, of having your input as advisors to us in the state.
Okay.
Great.
Your turn, Rob.
I'm so on the roll with this topic. We're just going to go with the great CASB for $400.
All right. Cloud first.
Can I phone a friend? What is the state of California's technology initiative?
Correct.
A thought on this is that we have the state cloud policy in place, and that really refers to cloud first, that we should be all considering our options, but first and foremost is cloud computing and the different options we have available through the data center. Where technology does not meet those needs within the data center, then we look at other options.
Okay. Tim, your turn.
He sounded like Chris there for a minute.
I've been taking lessons.
Paying in the SaaS for 300.
Okay. Office 365, ServiceNow, Salesforce, Dropbox, Workday, and other SaaS applications allow access to their cloud services for any device anywhere, whether from a browser or native mobile application. However, lack of native endpoint access control has caused many organizations to completely shut off access from BYOD or set up cumbersome processes such as VPN in order to access the SaaS apps from mobile devices. Is there a better way?
You never heard of outline questions? Yeah, what is a solution that provides access right management that will allow you to basically issue access rights at a role base, whether that role base is based on the device or the individual?
Thank you, Tim. Basically, you don't have to shut off access from BYOD when you are investing in SaaS applications, because as Tim mentioned, there are technologies out there can allow you to make an investment in SaaS applications, move to the cloud, but still allow you access from mobile devices or any other types of laptops, endpoint devices.
So I believe that, and we believe at the Resource Agency, that having a solution like this is important to our overall extendability and use of mobile. So as we move to Office 365, for instance, the ability to decide how we're going to use OneDrive and how you want to use that as potentially someone's home directory versus a shared repository, and what you're going to allow for them to do, such as are you going to prevent them from putting databases and executables in those drives. So it's really important that you have what we call runtime cloud policy access rights, and then you can allow the use of these things, but in a secure mannerism.
Great answer, Tim.
Good job, Tim.
Good job, yes.
And it wasn't even written down.
That's why it's good.
All right, Jay, beat that one. No.
Yeah, well, let me write. All right. Compliance and all the jazz for 300, please.
All right. Excessive and unused privileges, potential data leakage, and weak audit trail.
What are the top 3 security and compliance concerns in the cloud? Just want to quickly elaborate this. You have good governance, you have good security policy. One thing didn't change is the people. People are the weakest link of the security. Doesn't matter, it's law enforcement and other agency. If you don't have good training, good awareness of security, that's where your vulnerability will be. So it's very important to not just invest on technology, also invest on raise the awareness and the training for the people who will take priority as top, secure as top priority.
Thank you, Jay. Rob.
I think I'm going to go with embrace the cloud for $200. I'm going to embrace the crowd and the cloud.
Yes.
All
Especially
right.
the girl in the flopper dress, is that what you're talking about?
After this, you're going to embrace everyone.
All right, we've got 10 features here. Increased efficiency, disaster recovery, automatic software updates, capital expenditure free, increased collaboration, work from anywhere, environmentally friendly, flexibility, cost effective, scalability, and speed.
What are the top 10 benefits of moving to the cloud?
Correct.
Amazing. I think, we need to think about this from a business perspective. Who was here this morning at the cloud strategy session, the first session? Several of us, and actually a number of us. If you recall there, we talked a lot about talking to the business, and that's really where it needs to start with cloud. You need to understand what their understanding of risk is. What kind of risk are they willing to take? You need to understand what kind of data they have. At Food and Ag, when I was previously a CIO and AIO, we actually did a catalog of all our data. And for the first time, we actually talked to our customers and asked them the value of that data from a business perspective. And that's what you should be doing too, is understand the important aspects of what data you have out there, how the data is used, who's the owner of that data, how do you control the data, et cetera. The other thing to consider is when you move to the cloud, from a CIO perspective, you're gaining a lot. You're gaining agility. You're gaining speed to delivery. You're gaining better use of your resources. Do you really need to have 10 people managing servers and storage when they can be redeployed to do something else that is seen by the business customer as delivering business value immediately to them?
Thank you, Rob.
By the way, everyone that raised their hands worked for you.
That's good. Correct answer.
Tim, your turn.
Lurking in the shadows for 300.
All right. During a discovery audit of SaaS applications, typically around this number are found in use in an organization's environment.
what is roughly 100.
Correct. And Tim, you participated early on in discovering, because you have opened up your organization to allow them to use SaaS applications. And a part of your early work was to figure out how many SaaS applications were being used. So, one of the things you used was this discovery tool. And what were your thoughts around the results that you found? What were the results, and
Sure.
was it an eye-opener for you?
So we actually looked across the whole resource agency of discovery of how many people were using software as a service. And actually, we found basically over 3,000 unique software as a service that people were using. Now, some of these were unique, and some of these were just simply things like they were using maybe their home email system, or they were using some other types of things, a lot of Dropbox and things. Some of these had a high business value. So the first step it allowed us to do is really catalog those usage patterns. What were they using these things for? What were business related? And why were they using these? Were we not providing these as an IT service provider to them? And should we broker these things for them? But what we really wanted to do is be able to see the risk factors and then either sanction them or non-sanction the use of these software as a service applications. So software as a service is a good thing, but it's a bad thing if you don't have visibility into how people are using it. And Discovery gives you that instant visibility.
Thank you, Tim.
Sure.
How did you determine how people were using them? Well, that second part.
So-
Discovery was part one.
So the Discovery actually lets you know more than just who's using them.
Let's repeat the question.
I'm sorry.
The question was basically, how did you define, how did you figure out the patterns of what they were using and how they were using? Is that pretty much your question? Okay. So basically, we were able to see not just what types of products they were using, but because we use a Skyfence, it actually puts them into buckets for you, industry buckets. And then it also identifies not only who's using them and what they're using, but what are they storing and where are they storing and what type of data. And then it uses an industry risk factor to go through and put them in is this already has a high risk factor, medium and low based on industry standards and based on the type of information. It also shows you the geographical location of where that data that they're either using or extracting back in is stored at. So we were able to see all of that. And then basically we had to go through and do the analytics of meeting with the people and figuring out, what's the purpose of this? Why are you using this? Did you realize we have that capability internally? And a lot of it was just, convenience. So, but a lot of it was we didn't have those services for some of the unique businesses, like some of the environmental engineers and some of the hydro engineers that actually have to go across the world and work on some of these unique things and collaborate across the world. So there was some good business reasons for it. Did that answer your question? Okay.
And the discovery tool that Tim's talking about, it's actually a free tool that we have. So come by and talk to one of us.
That's my favorite
and-
price.
But it helps you gather data, right? It helps you gather the ammunition and understand not just how many SaaS apps are being used, but what kind, what's the risk associated with them, right? What's the industry standard? So this can just help you gather data on what's being used. And like Tim said, it's then navigate them to what is the official sanctioned cloud app or application. Or if there isn't one, let's find something together as an IT, right? Because it goes back to what Rob said. Let's ask the business. What's that line of business need? All right. Thank you, Tim. Jay, your turn.
All right, lurk in the shadow for 400, please.
Okay. Lack of visibility, native features not enough, data leakage, compliance requirements, document ownership, external sharing of files, and automatic synchronization.
What are the top risks for the file sharing and in the cloud?
Correct. So everyone's sharing in the cloud, right? And I think all of you have probably seen to a certain degree. So anything you want to elaborate there in terms of, what's going on and what your thoughts are?
Absolutely, because we are traditionally is a pretty encapsulated agency, and nothing goes out. However, the Office 365 and also the cloud first as the direction and also the best practice for the future force us to looking outside of our traditional thinking. The first thing we needed to look into it is how do we secure the transportation of the data between the cloud and our premises. It's a huge concern because data we are managing or we are collecting is really a knife and death sometimes. So it's very, very critical. And the team just mentioned about those new cloud security tools such as Skyfence, and those are kind of a tool we will implement first before we can flush our data to the cloud, because once in the cloud, and it's very hard to implement security afterward because the damage could be done. So it's absolutely important, and security, of course, it is number one for CIO, CTO, and also for Rob, right? Thank you. Thank you.
Your boss. Tim, Rob, you guys have anything else you want to elaborate on this one? Because this is such a big one in terms of putting data in the cloud, right?
You first.
So at Food and Ag, as a CIO, I had to deal constantly with this issue at all levels, from top to the bottom. And why is this difficult? There are probably over 250 different file sharing products out there. And some are interesting, as some were related directly to the type of work people do. So you can imagine a scientist that's an entomologist. Well, sure enough, there was a file sharing environment for that kind of work because it was specific to the types of files and things they were dealing with. And then working at the secretariat level, secretaries sharing information with secretaries. And of course, their work is critical, and they need to make sure they can share that information easily. So that was a problem, and something I had to manage myself as a CIO. So in terms of the risks, understand is part of it's cultural. You have to train your team and provide them a couple of options. So one of the things I did was I provided them 3 or 4 options they could use that was reviewed and approved. Don't just randomly approve any file sharing option. Make sure you check it out. So I actually had my ISO review the different products that were out there as they came forward and ensure that they met our security requirements for the state as well as our department and met our policies. And in a lot of cases, we found a different option that was already approved for them, and they were able to leverage that for a low cost. Tim, any thoughts?
We talked about this in an earlier session. Really, the cloud is all about workload placement. And so you really have to understand what data you're allowing to be placed in what type of cloud situation. So basically, if you don't understand the risk factor of the data, the systems are less of a risk factor. It's the data. I mean, confidential, sensitive. I mean, if you're placing data out there that you're already placing on your public website, no big deal, right? But if you're placing other type of data that's more critical or sensitive, or that you need to have complete ownership of, then you better think about where that goes. So I think it's understanding your data. And this is where you really have to engage the business people, because you can't put an IT value on data, but they can put a business value on it. They know what the nature of that. So data classification is a key element of your cloud strategy.
Yeah, and I want to elaborate on this a bit too. I've been talking to a lot of CIOs and CISOs, and it's kind of one of two strategies that I keep hearing, and they're both two different extremes, right? One is completely shut down the ability to share documents into the cloud, or the second is it's in the cloud, right? But you have to, what you don't know can hurt you, right? So you have to know what is it that you're putting on the cloud, and if your policy is sure, that's the future, it's here, we have to put documents in the cloud, well, then you have to meet compliance around that. And how can you do that? Or you regulate, right? You set policies around what can and cannot go into the cloud. So part of the technology such as this, right, is understanding that line of business's need, but at the same time, leveraging technology so it can do things like DLP classification, right? The second Susie tries to upload a document into OneDrive or Box or Dropbox, and your policy is, no, you can't put anything with FTI or CGIS or HIPAA information on there, you can block this action. Or your policy, so basically you block it, you don't allow them to put a sensitive data into the cloud. Or your policy is they can put it in the cloud, but then you have to audit it, right? So if you put it in the cloud, we can classify that as a sensitive document, and we're going to set audits around it so that when auditors do come around, you are meeting compliance and you know exactly who's touching that data and what they're doing with it.
So what you're saying is practice safe data.
Yes. Practice safe data. That's a good one.
For folks that are in the back, we do have some chairs open for you.
All right. I lost my place.
Compliance and all that jazz.
Yes.
Rob, it is your turn.
Well, thank you. I've been waiting for this opportunity. I think I'm going to go with compliance and all the jazz for $500.
That's a great voice. This group of people perform timely reviews on multiple aspects of data, whether on premises or in the cloud, including user management and entitlements, access control, and audit trail.
Who are auditors?
Correct. Our friends.
That's right. Who likes auditing?
Married to Petrio.
So, yeah. In terms of this category, and in terms of auditing and compliance and keeping within the requirements of our different data sources, it's a difficult job we have. And we're under the gun to keep in compliance with HIPAA, PCI, CGIS, FedRAMP, and many other control sets. And what I like to explain to folks is understand is, in terms of what the data center does, it's about managing your risk, and it's about managing to a program. It's not necessarily a specific set of requirements, but you have to look at it as a whole. And sometimes you're accepting risk. Sometimes you're mitigating risks. And you need to keep it all in context. Otherwise, it's just overwhelming. But we're here at OTEC to help you with that. So if you have questions on this area in terms of what we're doing in our organization, we'll be happy to share that with you.
Rob is your friend.
That's right.
All right. Tim, your turn.
Let me see. Woman's shoes for 100.
I'm afraid that is not a category today, Tim. Maybe later at the happy hour we're having at Capitol Garage at 5:30.
Okay.
No plugins.
Painting the SAAS for 200, 300.
How about 100?
Okay.
You're a vendor, so I always want more.
I thought you wanted the less price. I can always charge you more. When rolling out Office 365, each agency will receive 1 terabyte of data to store here.
What is known as OneDrive?
Correct. Are you using OneDrive, Tim?
Yes, we believe that as part of our mobility and extended strategy and also our cost reduction strategies, that OneDrive will be a big player. For instance, we did an analysis just on DWR, and the user community user drives are over basically 300 terabytes. So think about saving 300 terabytes, not only on primary storage, but on the backup cost of that storage. The second thing is the ability to extend out where people have access to their works from basically anywhere, anytime. It creates that extendability and that mobility that we're looking for unstructured type of data.
Telework from Hawaii.
Great answer. So go ahead, Doug. I was going to use an example, but you might.
I wanted to point out there should be 1 terabyte per user.
Yes, per user. Times the 6,000 employees at your agency. Just a little bit of data in the cloud. But I want to bring up, and this is something that came up last week at a meeting we were at, and one of the early thoughts was to shut down access to OneDrive because of the security risk that it could potentially arise, right, out of it. But then on the flip side, there's actually the need for data storage, and so you're paying even more money to find a file storage, and it's hundreds of thousands of dollars, but you do have capability to store data, and you're shutting it down here, but paying here, right? So basically, it's let's allow access to it, right? Let's store data where we've got it, we're paying the money for it, but let's just set some compliance and some security parameters around that 1 terabyte per person. Go ahead, Doug.
That would be like sticking your finger in one hole and there's 100 other holes in a dam. Because we ran that free tool. We have over 134 cloud applications that people are using to provide all kinds of business continuity things for sharing files and doing all this and that, right? But we need to get our arms around what all this access is for and try to provide direction and value for the business as IT people.
Yeah, and that's a great point, right? So you just did the discovery, what, yesterday or a few days ago? And so now you've got that data. Now you have to go ask, what are you using this for, right? Is it some very unique need as opposed to, is it something you already have a sanctioned tool for? All right, thank you.
Let me also add that with OneDrive, you actually have better management capabilities through the administrative portal, because today, how many of you know, like, when your people exit, what do you do with that home directory? Do you have processes of cleanup? Does it stay out there forever? So with this ability at a subscription model, it drives some disciplines and processes back into how do you manage the user unstructured data.
Thank you, Tim. Jay, your turn.
All right, the great CASB for 300, please.
All right. The percent of organizations Gartner predicts will have a CASB implemented by 2020.
What is 85%?
Correct. Good job.
Will be one of them.
Everyone in here should be
Yeah.
one of them. All right. So this is a question for the audience. I just want you to raise your hand if you are able to answer this, answer all of these in regards to your organization. It's a daily double, so you get double the points. So I'm just going to read these out. Looks like a little bit of small font. Can you answer these questions about your cloud apps in your organizations? Which apps are being used and by whom? Where is my data most at risk in the cloud? Who are my top 10 users? Who uses file sharing services? What user activities are suspicious? How many cloud apps are used worldwide? Where is data leakage occurring in the cloud? Where is my data in the cloud? And who is downloading sensitive data to unmanaged devices? Who in here can answer all 9 of these questions?
Mary, can you step out of the room?
Nobody can, right? And that's the point, and it starts with the discovery tool to understand what is being used, right? And answering some of those basic level questions, and then being able to, because technology can't solve all your problems, right? It's then taking the technology to then talk to your employees to who's using what, why, and then navigating towards official SaaS applications or creating SaaS applications that they can use that's been approved by, your IT department as a whole. And that's what the CASB market is, right? That's why Gartner has created this market for cloud applications, and that's why they believe by 2020, over 85% of companies and organizations out there will be using it, because this is the trend. Everyone is moving towards the cloud, whether it's a custom app or it's some large app like Office 365 and OneDrive. So these are the types of questions you need to ask yourself and ask your organizations and start to wrap your head around what are the answers to these questions. All right.
Questions from the audience?
Yeah, so we have a audience category, but does anybody have questions first for these guys?
I do. Just when you got ready to do that discovery, because it's very powerful to do that kind of discovery, do you think in those 2 organizations that have done that, do you have things in place that have informed your users that all of a sudden, so you're going to find some positives, right? So, we should allow you to have that. But you're also going to find some, extra online businesses they could be running. Are they informed enough before you start that discovery, or was that kind of on the sly? How did you go about doing that?
So for our approach, because it was non-intrusive to them, we just did the discovery, and then we used the discovery information to come back to them and talk to them factually about how, and make them aware, especially the decision makers. So since it was, it wasn't going to affect anything they did, we weren't going to make a decision blanketly on what we saw, but in order to make an intelligent decision working collaboratively with them, we wanted to bring information to them. So they did right off the bat. They said, oh, cut this, that's really not, but can you come back with us and tell us a little bit more about these risks? So it was good information to have a very positive dialogue around.
Doug, you want to answer that as well? Because you just did the discovery, right? So.
Right, and it was not intrusive, and it's actually presenting information we already had from our NGFW, our Palo Alto, in a different way. And it showed geographic information about these cloud applications and a risk score. So there was a lot of value in the report over and above the information you already knew. But it's just giving you an ability to approach the business and say, we can provide you better service and ensure that you have governance around your platform. And that's the key here. Because, for instance, they may need to put legal holds on either topics or people based on some of the things they're dealing with. But we can't do that if we don't know where people are putting stuff. There are 100 other places they might put stuff. It's not just USB anymore. There's thousands of places that you put this stuff.
Thank you. Any other questions? Comments? Okay. So we'll start with the Hollywood hacking category. This is a part of the audience. We have cool prizes. So Hannah and Alden will come up to you. So raise your hand. Oops. Raise your hand if you know the answer to this question. All right, this movie was released directly to streaming movie services because Hollywood was allegedly hacked by North Korea. The North Korean government threatened action against the United States if Sony Entertainment released this film.
We got to have the first hand.
Okay,
What is the interview?
yes. Good job.
Where's the iPad?
There's no iPad gift. Okay, so Hollywood hacking for 200. This movie had their own studio hack and deface the movie website to further promote their movie. Back there, go ahead.
What is Sony?
What is what?
Sony.
No, but you have to, it's the movie.
Oh, the movie, I'm sorry.
You didn't.
Can I participate?
Yeah, if you know it.
What is Black Hat?
No.
Oh.
I don't actually know the answers. Okay, we'll just go to the next one.
Hey, what are you guys laughing about? None of you knew it either.
Hollywood hacking for 300. This movie used modem war dialing to find a supercomputer that almost caused a thermonuclear war.
What is working?
What version?
No, that's
And what
not-
version?
It's a
What
movie.
Version 1? Which series?
They did a remake.
That is correct. Tim's just mad he got the other one wrong. Hollywood hacking for 400. This 3D grid character used NMAP to scan a power plant, then used SSH nuke to exploit an SSH vulnerability to gain root access.
There is
Name
Google,
the
you
movie
know.
or the character. Go ahead.
Tron.
You said Tron.
No.
Mission Impossible 6?
Good try.
Someone said something back here?
No.
Pinky and the Brain?
Who said The Matrix? Okay, which character from The Matrix did this?
Hey, that's not part of the question.
Okay, that's fine. No one. Okay. It's Trinity. Trinity from The Matrix. Okay, one last category. This movie sported a.
Okay.
That is correct.
That's a classic.
Here, I can.
Classic.
Good job. So, one last question, but I think I put the answer on here. The final Jeopardy question is, where should you go to get more information about the CASB market or our discovery tool? Good job. stop by our booth.
Who said Imperva? Someone said Imperva.
Yeah, someone, I don't know who, I wasn't paying attention. Okay. All right, does anyone have any other questions? We have 10 minutes left. I have a big sign back there. Go ahead, Doug.
There's something you mentioned before, and that has to do with how your sky fence is protected. It's protected by your other product called Encapsula, is that correct?
Yes. So basically, when it comes to the CASB market, if you implement a tool such as this, your first component is some kind of an identity management or single sign-on, right? So there's lots of tools out there that do that. There's Ping, Okta, ADFS. I think most agencies are looking towards ADFS, right? So that's your identity management. If you have 3 SaaS applications or 100, they have one place to go to sign on, and then they can use their SaaS apps. We are, or the CASB market is that layer in between. We're that layer of security after your single sign-on and once you get to those SaaS applications. That's how we can help you monitor access into OneDrive, or which mobile device can get into Salesforce or which cannot, or what can they do there. So the hackers, the bad guys, if they're gonna hit you, they're gonna hit us now, right? It's gonna be that layer, because we're that layer of security. And so what our technology, what our solution sits on is we have a Cloud WAF application as well that's called Encapsula. And so we've got 2 terabytes of data that we're sitting on in 31 POPs across the globe, and we can limit that to just the nation. So if they hit us, we can absorb it. And so basically it's an additional layer of protection that you get, because once they can't get to you or to your SaaS application, it's the CASB, it's that cloud solutions that they're going to go after.
It includes DDoS too. You can buy DDoS as well. That's the big one. We want to make sure they actually know that.
Any other questions or?
I have a question for the audience. So what is your biggest fear about moving stuff to a cloud platform? Or what is your biggest constraint that you believe? Not you, someone else.
Bandwidth and accessibility.
Bandwidth and accessibility. Anybody else?
Yeah. I had to produce a few white papers and presentations for our business because I think they feel more comfortable having it in-house or just on premises. If you have solutions on premises and they can touch it and feel it, they feel like it's more secure. But that may not actually be the truth. And so you may have all kinds of certifications, audits you passed, for instance, Office 365 may have their audits and certifications. But in-house, do you have those audits and certifications for your in-house systems?
I just want to add that there is a myth in how to use cloud. Probably all of us, who use cloud, use their banking, Gmail, everything in the cloud. Once they come to work, they kind of a different mindset, scared. Actually, the technology already there, it's secure, it's the same thing as you do in banking. So sometimes you just need to educate them. You're already in the cloud, you already use the cloud.
Right. And that's a good point, Jay, is that's actually something I tell people all the time is who's used SurveyMonkey as an example. Pretty much everyone here has used SurveyMonkey either to submit surveys or create your own surveys. Guess what? It's a cloud product. And many other things that we leverage today are cloud products. So it's something to use as an example to sell your idea of cloud computing and how you can leverage it. But it has to be leveraged for the right kind of data. You have to classify your data and understand how it's being used and assess that risk you have and the acceptance of that risk by the business side.
Any other questions?
Hey, Rob, will products like this, these CASB products, be something potentially that OTEC will be offering up as part of their VHSS services?
I'll say this, we are looking at security as a service as an entire category, and this is certainly one area of interest. While it's not the first category that we're working on, we are working on backup and recovery right now. I could see this in the future as being a potential category given the amount of interest. What's interesting to me as being a former CIO and now in this role is security for many years was an afterthought, and now it's on the front burner. So we in IT need to make sure that we have this area covered. So it can't be an afterthought anymore.
And that's a great point, right? And Jay mentioned this, that a tool like this is the first thing to put into place.
So as you start rolling out those SaaS applications, the stage is already set. So that line of business, when you roll out Office 365, if it's an official department device, you can do everything. If it's a BYOD, you can possibly get onto Office 365, but you can't upload or download a document, right? You set the stage from the beginning so that that line of business gets used to those certain requirements and those certain, that's the policy, right? This is how you can go and use SaaS devices or SaaS applications. All right, if there's no more questions, thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everyone, for coming.
And thank you, Tim, Rob, and Jay. Really appreciate it.
I'll stick around for a few moments if anybody has questions or wants to take photos.
Any fees? No.